This is tape 4 in the interview with Barbara Stimler on the 28th of November 1988 with Jennifer Wingate.
And that's how I kept myself alive. I used to get extra soup, and I was all right. But I think that happened before all this, where I, on one sail appeal, I fell, and they took me to an ambulance, which was a little hospital called. One of the blocks, they made like an ambulance, and I remember that was Yom Kippur, because there were a lot Hungarians with us. The Hungarians already came as well, and they were, or was it not Hungarians? Some people were davening, they saying their prayers, yes, because that was Yom Kippur. I mean, I lost the time anyway. And that time also, when I was in this ambulance, we heard the bombing. And we thought they were bombing the camp. And we're praying to God, let us be dead, but let us see that they are finished. But now after the war, we find out that they didn't bomb the Auschwitz. They bombed not far from there somewhere. Anyway, from there, they sent me to Lager B, which I did not know, that this Lager B, unfortunately, they used to select from there and send direct to the gas chambers as well. And the blockade tester knew me from somewhere that I was singing, the one who was looking after the EU girls. And she sent me back to Lager C. They had pity on me somehow, I don't know. And you could see only the big blue eyes with me. The face was gone, that the big blue eyes. And I think everybody, somehow, I don't know, I had a lot of luck, I must say. I had a lot of muzzle. And she sent me back to Block C, Lager C rather. And that's when I start looking for this Hennig, and my life became a little bit easier. As I said, Auschwitz was already paradise for me, what I went through in Litzmannstadt, seeing my mother going down and not to be able to help her, and seeing people dying on the streets from hunger. It was very little people from Litzmannstadt there. They were mostly people coming from around the places, because they were just either sent off to Auschwitz, to other camps, or they just died out because they couldn't take it anymore. And one day I met a friend of mine in Auschwitz, whom I was together in the ghetto, where I was working for the Germans to pack the cases for heating up the aeroplane engines. And I met her there in the ghetto. Now you can imagine how we felt. So I tried to help her with the food as well. And unfortunately, with clothes I couldn't. And we kept ourselves together. What was the help for me? When Mengele came, let's say I was in a certain block, and before I came in, and I could hear that Mengele is there, I didn't go in back. I went to another block. And that's how I was going from one block to another.
When you were singing, you mean?
Yes, but that is not only singing, just going about during the day. As I was dressed as a Stubendienst, as a cleaner or doing work, I was moving around.
You did do cleaning as well?
Very little. No, very little. Yes, but I was getting away from it because I was not stopping in one block. I was going from one block to another, you see. And once we went into a block where they didn't have banks, but 1,000 women were lying on the bare floor. And it was just terrible. We were sleeping, so one goes with the hand, one goes with the leg, and the all 1,000 women start fighting. And this Blockälteste comes, and I was on the edge. It was dark. She picks up my clock, and she starts beating me. So I said to my friend Bella, next time when Mengele comes, I can't take it anymore. I'm going, wherever. And that's what it was. A few days later, Mengele did come.
Why did you say that? Was Mengele
I couldn't take
there
it.
at the time?
No.
When she...
No, when she beat us, no. That was in the night.
Yes.
Because they were all women, she wanted to keep us quiet. So she started beating, you see. I don't know how I didn't have black marks. Do you know, it's a miracle of miracles. Because with a clock, but I couldn't anymore, really. Though I mean, I helped myself with the food and all this, but it was already unbearable seeing other people in this state, and you lose your already, you can't fight anymore. So, a few days later, Mengele did come. All these 1,000 women had to go on one side of the chimney. And we had to undress ourselves as God bore us again. And he was standing near the entrance, outside the block, not inside, with other SS men. And we holding our clothes on our arms. I had a little bit more than anybody else, as I told you. And one to the left, one out and one back into the block on the other side, because all the 1,000 women on one side of the block, one in the back to the block on the other side, and one out. So Bella was with me. We were one of the first to get there, and we're looking around which one coming out, if the ones who look a little bit like people or the one who look already bad. And praying to God where they're going to send us. Because that time we knew already about the gas chambers, you see. And when he selected, actually, he took me by the hand, like he took everybody by the hand, front and back. And he gave me a clap and throw me out like. And that was Mengele. Very good-looking man, dark and handsome, and you wouldn't think that such a devil was in him. And all the SS men, they were so good-looking, young men. It's just impossible to think that people like that can be so cruel. Anyway, they took us again to a room where there were showers.
So you were sent out?
Not, it was all in the camp, all in Auschwitz.
Yes, but were you selected to stay outside the hut?
Outside the hut.
Oh, you were taken out?
Outside the hut. Mm-hmm. And the other girls were on the other side of the block. It was a block.
So how many of you were taken out?
This I can't tell you.
A lot.
We were, Polish of us were after 200, but they were not, I don't know if he was collecting just from our block or from others as well. But when we got to the working camp, there were 200 Polish Jewish girls and 800 Hungarian Jewish girls, you see. So we were all 1,000, but if it was just, it couldn't be because we were only 1,000 in this block, you see. When we got there, we had to undress. We dressed ourselves, and then on the street, like there on outside the block, and then they took us to a place. We had to strip ourselves again, left our clothes out behind, and there were showers on top. Now, what's going to come out? Is it to come out gas or water? We're all holding ourselves with our hands like that. And what is going to be? Gas or water? Water starts coming out. And if you can hear, everybody, thank God. After we had the bath, they didn't shave us anymore. After we had the bath, I don't know how we dried ourselves. You know, it's a funny thing how things are coming to you. How did they give us towels to dry? I don't remember. But the next thing I know, they were giving us clothes. Shoes.
Clean clothes?
They were worn. They were worn, but clean. All the time, you see, from time to time, even in Auschwitz when I was there, all the time we were disinfected. All the time they're taking us to have a wash and different dresses. But in the seams, you could see, when you opened the seam, you could see dead lice, you see. So, but at least they were dead. So you scraped it out and put it on, that's all. But in Auschwitz, they only gave us a dress, which this man gave me clothes, but not knickers, you see. That was the worst part. But still, when we were, when they were giving us now clothes, so I asked her to give me something to cover. They gave us coats, but they were all had red crosses. They gave us dresses, shoes, and stockings. So I asked her to give me a towel. So she gave like a toweling rag, so tied up on both sides as knickers. And I also asked her something to cover the hair. Yes, so she gave me a slip. So this I tore a half and gave Bella, my friend, because we were together now, you see, to cover the hair, because we didn't have much hair, so to cover the heads. And they took us, and the girl said to us, how lucky we are. One of the luckiest ones that we're going to work. They took us in, I cannot tell you exactly how we got to the train. I just don't remember. I just remember sitting in this lovely clean train, a passenger train, not a cattle train. We are sitting like ladies. I don't know how we got food. And we landed up in a place called Pirschkau, which was Niederschlesien. Niederschlesien, Pirschkau. It was a big farm where they put us in barns. One barn was where the pigs were, one barn where the horses were, and one barn where the cows were. It was full of straw. In the middle we had an oven, and it was not too bad. The trouble only was we had to walk a long, long way. When we got there, it was the end of the summer. Don't know the months, but the sun was still shining. It was lovely.
Can I ask how long the journey had been in the train?
Don't remember. It's from Auschwitz to Pirschkau. I just don't. I remember only a few bits and pieces. And maybe they've got records there somewhere. And when we got there, they gave us food. We used to get soup We used to get a ration of bread in the morning, like a big slice, and in the evening as well, not like in Auschwitz, only one slice of bread, you see. And the trouble was we had to walk a long way to work. We had to dig anti-tank ditches. So we thought to ourselves, golly, if we're supposed to be the workers, you see, that was Polish-German border. And they were afraid of the Russians. All the Russians were already coming, I don't know. And if we were the workers, so we thought, it must be very bad. Anyway, so when the winter came, that was terrible, because snow was very high.
This was 42?
No.
40?
Oh, it's a long way now. We are in 44.
You were talking about
94, 44, yes. Yes. And that was very bad when we had to go to work in this winter where the snow was high. You know, we looked like in Siberia, the workers going to work. Poor us. Of course, we couldn't. We had to, how do you call these? Pickaxe. We had to pick, because the earth was frozen, and they could see we can't do it anymore. So they were blowing it up, and then we had to straighten out.
Was it just women, not men?
We were just women, but behind us, or in the front or behind, the men were working. I come to it later. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about this camp. They gave us, when we entered this camp, or was it when we were in Auschwitz? I don't know. I think it was in the camp. Whatever number you had here, they put it also on a little tag.
Metal tag?
No, it was not metal. It was from leather, and the number on it with a little string. It's a matter of fact, they again was singing there. So I had a little bit extra food. Not just to Juden Älteste. There were not many assessments there. One assessment was there, and there were only police, like German elderly men. One was a Volksdeutsch, who come from Poland, and he joined the German army. You see, a lot of them. That's what it was when I was in Aleksandrow. A lot of them joined the German army. They used to call them Volksdeutschen. And he heard me. You know, I was singing to the girls, just in the evenings. So we were entertaining each other. And one of the girls wrote a beautiful song, and I don't remember the words. The tune was from Lamplight, not from Lamplight. The girl who was blind, Chaplin wrote that song. From the blind girl, it was a film. I think it was a silent film, and the tune was from there. I forgot. Anyway, and then it's a shame because it should be written the words, because that was about the camp. And you see, you just don't realize how precious these things would be after the war. And you just lived from one day to another, not thinking that you will live through to have all these things, to write, to do things. You just didn't think about it. You just lived from one day to another thinking, oh, what's going to happen in 1 hour? Anyway, and so I had a little bit also better, because the girls were quite good to me and all this. And in the kitchen, they used to call me to the kitchen to sing, so I had an extra soup. So one day when I was not well, I stayed behind, and Bella had to go to work. She had to work, so I used to keep the soup for her in the straw to keep it a little bit warm, and I used to share the bread with her. I shared with her food, kept her alive as well. And one day, I washed myself and left. You see, we used to wash ourselves in snow. We used to bring the snow and we used to wash ourselves in snow. And I still don't remember how we dried ourselves. It's a puzzling thing to me. How did we dry ourselves? Because I know we didn't have no towels. It's a funny thing. And I put this tag somewhere and I couldn't find it. And this old assessment, one day came, we had to stand, again we used to stand in fives as well there. They had to count us. They were counting us every day before we went to work and when we come back from work, if somebody didn't disappear. And I haven't got the tag. The Gerus made up for me. We found a bit of carton and he saw it, it's not. That he sloshed me. And Bella is the witness, she's here. She sloshed me terribly. And twice I got sloshed. Once for this, and once by a Hungarian. So they were pushing themselves everywhere. And whatever went wrong, they used to call us the Polish Schweinen. And they used to accuse us that we were doing it. One day they were giving us some cottage cheese, which was very rare. So I said, can I have a little bit more? And she gave me a slosh.
When you say
the German from the kitchen, yes. Sorry, not the German, the Hungarian woman.
When you say slosh, do you mean?
She gave me smack, you know. Hit me, yes.
Not beaten up?
Oh, no, not beaten up, but he beat me up. The assessment beat me up. Oh, yes, because I didn't have the proper tag. Anyway. And, you know, my face, I can't tell you, I couldn't move myself. And then it was, what's the name? Christmas time. And we had to sing in front. There were a lot of women, German women, and they were worse than the men looking after us. They were dreadful. They were like cannons. And we had to sing in front of their windows, the carols. But then every one of us got a bread. About 4 of us. It was our Christmas present, which was good because we went back and, you know, you slept on so the few girls you gave a bit of bread. And one German who was taking us to work, we were going in hundreds. So my friend Bella was chosen to look after 100, which I was in it, you see. And a German man, a policeman, he was not already an assessman, but from the army, he was not an army man, an elderly man. And he always had pity on me. So he always gave me an extra little soup. Because when you finish the kettle, that's how it was in the Auschwitz, and everywhere when they were giving us food. The girls were fighting to get a spoon more out. It was just terrible, you know. Because however we had the slice of bread in the morning and slice of bread in the evening, and sometimes they gave us a bit of cottage cheese and sometimes they gave us a bit of jam, which was rare, and a soup during the day, it was still not enough, you see. Or the soup when we come back from work. No, they used to give us soup when we were at work. I don't remember if they gave us soup when we come back. No, just the bread. Just the bread they gave us. It was still not enough. We were young girls, you see, young women. Anyway, and this German was very good to me. So once I told him it's my birthday, so he brought me an apple. I had to tell a lie a bit. So the girls were seeing what's happening there. Every day somebody else had a birthday.
Did he give them?
Yes, some of them they gave and some of them. But he said to me, he walked next to me and he said to me that he has a child my age. He left a daughter and an older son, and he was longing to go home, you know, to see them. That's all unfair, but I didn't say anything. I was scared to say anything anyway.
Apart from that, what were conditions like in this camp?
No, we were just
dirty, still dirty and cold?
No, because we had snow, we had water, we were able to walk about.
Any
because
heating?
I told you that stove in the
Oh,
middle,
that was-
yes, and we
was
had to.
kept warm.
Oh yes, when we got there, it was still summer, and that we had to do the work for them. They had to give us something, otherwise we won't be able to do the work. But there also girls were getting ill, and it was also one of the part of the block of the barn was made as a little ambulance, and the girls which were ill.
Yes, when you
They
say
were
ambulance,
there.
you mean a sort of little
Hospital, yes. They
Yes.
called it ambulance because
Oh.
it was not a proper house. They used to call it ambulance.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So, did you have to go and
No.
find wood for yourself?
yes,
to put in the
it was
stove?
ready for us.
Oh, it
Yes,
was
and
very
I suppose some of the girls were chopping because all day long we were working.
Right.
You see, who was doing the chopping? I don't know, maybe the girls were in the kitchen.
Yes.
You see, because the Hungarians always push themselves first to the best positions, so they were in the kitchen. Do you know, I have suffered so much with Hungarians in that camp, then I said that after the war, I will not take revenge on the Germans, but on a Hungarian. I mean it. That's what they gave us so much service in that camp. There were 800 of them and 200 only of us. They were terrible to us. I know everybody wants to survive, but you don't have to. Okay, I asked you for this cheese. You don't have to smack me. I can't give you any more, and that's it. You can be decent, whatever something happened. And they were the first ones to get the kratzer. Kratzer was. So we were running from them like hell. None of us had it, but they got it. How did they get rid of it? I don't know.
Yes. That's the skin disease.
Yes, it's very, very catching.
Yes.
Scratching yourself.
Yes.
So we were one up from them. We didn't get that. We kept up because we kept ourselves very clean. Every night when we come from work, we did wash ourselves in snow. We brought snow in and we washed ourselves and dried ourselves near the stove. So we took turns. I don't know, maybe we were there about 100 girls together in that. We were really where the pigs were. So it was better because it was not so high, you see. Where the cows or the horses, it was higher. So we were better off, you see.
And you were always doing the same work?
Always the same work.
And was it an open country or was
Open
it in
country,
woods?
open country. And I must tell you something. One day, I told you that when they were working in front of us, and we were working behind. No, we were working in front, they were working behind because they were finishing off these.
The men
The
were behind.
yes, the trenches. I don't know if they were Jewish or not, but one man who was going with a wagon and a horse, he was bringing wood. He was bringing the wood there. The wood, and was passing. And one day, he threw to me tobacco and a letter that he would like to save me from there. If I would be there and there, standing, he could put me between the wood, because he was bringing the wood and he's bringing something else, I don't know. You were afraid to look, really. And I knew he was not Jewish because I could see him. You see, he was a young man. He may be 20. The tobacco was very useful. I didn't smoke, but the Hungarians smoked. And I had plenty of soup. And my friends smoked as well. So that was my savior. I didn't write to him, but I didn't stand where he taught me. But he still threw me bread and the tobacco. You see? I thought to myself, I don't know who he is. What am I going to do? If he's a Pole, he probably fancies me in a certain way. He would like to marry me or would sleep with me. So what am I going to do? I'd rather stay with my people, and what will be, will be. When you're by yourself, you don't worry about so much. When I was with my mother, I worried over her, and that was breaking my heart. But by yourself, you just don't care. What will be, will be. Anyway, I didn't go, and I stayed in the camp. My friend is alive. She is a witness. She lives in Edgware. And, sorry. It was already after Christmas, that was in January. Suddenly they woke us up 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know exactly the time because we didn't have watches, but it was night. All in the forecourt, because it was a farm, you had a big yard, you see, and the pump was in the yard. 2 pumps actually were in the yard where you could get water. We were also not allowed after 9 to go out. But till now we were moving around wherever we wanted in this forecourt, in this yard. All of us had to go into the yard, dress ourselves and go to the yard. And the girls who were ill, again in fifths, they were counting us, and the girls who were ill, we had to put in the blankets, who couldn't walk. 4 girls had to carry. A girl was lying in the blanket, and we start to march. It's snow. We haven't got the koches to carry the girls, however 4 girls, but you can imagine. And we are walking, no food, no nothing. We're just living on snow. And when we were resting, we just flopped on the snow. The snow was building up on the shoes. It was just terrible. And then eventually, I don't know how they got it, but they got wagons and put the girls in the wagons, the ill ones, and we had to push it, but that was not so bad already then, because the blankets were slipping from the hands. We didn't have no gloves, and it was very, very cold. And one day, they took the wagons into the forest. We don't know what they've done with them. We just left them there. We know what they've done with them. They killed them there. And we are marching. And still no food.
Can I just ask you, what were the girls ill with? Did they have
They didn't have,
typhoid or
no.
malnutrition? Obviously.
If they would have typhoid, they would finish them off straight away because they would be afraid to get themselves. No, malnutrition, mostly malnutrition, yes. They didn't have the clothes anymore. It was hard work. When we had, during the summer, when we had to dig the trenches, we had to throw the sand quite high with the spades. It was very hard work. That's why they were feeding us. But we could do so much and so much. I think it's only because I was such a delicate child before the war. I didn't eat much, and whatever food I had, it kept me going, you know? Which girls, which needed more food, they couldn't take it. Anyway.
So you were marching?
Yes. One of the girls was on this wagon, a woman actually. And somebody told her to get off the wagon because they knew what's going to happen. And she got off the wagon and she was going with us. We were keeping her. Anyway, and one day also this marching, I was on the edge and I fell in the ditch, in the snow. They did not notice me, because when a girl fell marching, they killed her. That was terrible. That was called the Death March, you see, which I found out afterwards. I didn't even know, but that's what it was called. I started to move, and a lorry was passing, and they picked me up. They were soldiers. And of course, they saw the
Red Cross.
that cross on my back. They asked me who I was. So I saw that I was going with a camp, and I just fell. So I said, the camp is still walking there. Could you drop me there? And they just thrown me off, you know, and I was back with them. I suppose this bit of rest picked me up, I don't know. Or I got scared, I don't know. And I started walking in them. We walked for many, many days without food, without anything, just snow. Till I could see it's no good. One day, we were sleeping in a barn which was in the middle of the forest. Not far from a farm, but that was in the middle of the forest, and it was built from wood, which you had spaces between the wood. And what I could see, and I was with my friend Bella, what I could see, they had, I don't know how you call it in
Mounds?
yes.
Mounds.
And there I knew, because that was in Poland, they used to bury for the winter potatoes, carrots, sweet vegetables. They used to bury for the winter with earth.
Earth, yes.
You see, so I knew that something is there, and we already had bombing and shooting. As we were walking, we could hear. So I said to Bella, it must be soon. That is a fantastic place to hide. You see, being the youngest in the camp, the woman, about 2 yards deep, buried me and covered me with a straw near the wood, which I could breathe. And every night when we were sleeping in these barns, the soldiers had bayonets, and they used to, but the bayonets were about half a yard deep, you see, and they used to go up to the straw and to see if anybody is left. Now my friend Bella, they caught. She had to go back with them, and I was left there. But I could hear from the other side that a woman is crying, please leave me. She spoke beautiful German. This was the girl who got off this wagon. She was actually a woman, not a girl, a young woman. If you want to kill me here. Why should you kill me on the road? She couldn't walk anymore. Can we stop for 1 second, please? So she was begging her, if you have to kill me here. Why should I be killed on the street? And that was actually the old soldier who helped me, and he left her there. He left her there. So when it got dark, I went over to her. Now her leg was in a terrible state, black, in a terrible, terrible state.
Is that gangrene?
I don't know what it was.
Frostbite, maybe.
Just black. Anyway, and so I was, in the night I went over to her, as I said, and I was putting snow onto it and made it better. And with my bare hands, I started digging the earth to see what it is there, outside the barn. I don't know how you call these things.
Mounds.
The mounds. I used to, with my bare hands, I got in because the earth was frozen. It was potatoes. So I got the potatoes out. I don't know how we had a knife. I don't know. We were eating with the peels. That's right. And we washed it, the potatoes, in the snow, and we were living on the potatoes for 10 days. And we can hear shooting, and we can hear bombing, and nobody's coming. So we couldn't anymore. Our stomachs were bloated from the raw potatoes, and in every potato we found a different taste, an apple taste, and a nut taste, and eventually we had to get down. We went down, and we walked to the village. Now, my friend Irma, her name was Irma Weiss. She was married. She had a little girl who was taken away from her when she went to Auschwitz. She originated actually from Germany, but her parents came from Poland. And that's why she spoke good German. But as the family originated from Poland, they had to leave Germany and had to go to Poland. Because if you know that in Germany, people who were not born in Germany had to leave Germany. Or maybe she was also born in Poland, but anyway, they were living in Germany, but they had to leave, and that's why she spoke very good German. So when we went out from this barn, we started walking towards the village. A woman was standing there, a German woman. How do you call it? She was kneeling over a fence. Leaning over the fence. Yes, kneeling is. And so I said to Irma, ask her if she could give us a bit of water. Start with water, maybe she'll help us. So Irma went over and she says, in German, could we have a bit of water? So she looked at us and went in and didn't say one word. So we start walking further. Then suddenly we can smell potatoes being cooked for the pigs. It was a big farm there, you see. So I said to her, let's go in. Let's go in. And there were people working there. There were Poles also working there, and they let us have potatoes. So you put potatoes everywhere, wherever we could. At least we said we will have potatoes cooked, and we wanted to go back there, you see, because now we've got cooked potatoes, so we can stick out for another maybe week, and they will come. As we are putting the potatoes into our pockets everywhere, the police came and arrested us. The German police came and arrested us. I don't know if they sent the people who work there or the German woman sent for the police. They arrested us, and we start walking with them. And a town which was lower, we were just going down like a mountain. It was a main road, and suddenly aeroplanes came and started bombing that town. So these two policemen left us in the middle of the road and ran. So what we did? Through the fields, we went back to the barn. And we thought, we stay there as long as we can, as long as the potatoes are going to last us. We stayed there for 3 days. And the farmer came with an Alsatian. And the Alsatian came up and barked and barked and barked. We had to come down. We had to come down. Can you stop for a second? They arrested us again, and they took us to a farm again, where the other girls were there. The other camp of ours, some of them, were there. And there was a pole, and they were German soldiers. They were stationary German soldiers. And the next day, they came and took the girls away. But one of the German soldiers and the Pole, they hid us. Me and Irma, I told you she spoke German, beautiful German. And they hid us. Yes.
Why?
In the loft.
Why?
I don't know. I'll tell you in a minute. They hid us in the loft, and all the other ones went. All the other ones went, and in the night, they came and raped us. My husband doesn't know that. And they gave us food. They kept us. I really did not even know that a woman is a virgin, to tell you the truth. And blood didn't come out anyway. I don't know. Though she was a married woman, but I never had a man in my life. And the next day, they throw us out. We were on our own. We were on our own, and we got to a place where it was a Polish camp. It was a Polish camp, a working camp, but our luck, the next day they were evacuating them again. I don't know the name of the place. I don't know nothing. I only know one thing, that one of the women noticed that we've got these crosses. We didn't want to tell them that we are Jews, you see. So this Pole, one of the Poles who fenced Irma, he said, please don't say anything. And what we did, he got us a cotton and needle, and we undone the whole back of the coats. She did and I did, and turned over on the other side. We worked all night on it. And they arrested again this camp. They took these people away. Where they were taking them, probably deep to Germany again. And this Pole said, we went to the right, and he took us to another place. Oh God, you know, it's like a nightmare. I know we're in the German camp, yes, now, and this man who fenced Irma, he told us, as they are going straight, you turn to the right in this road and follow me. And we did. And he took us to this woman there, to another place where the women were there, and they had suspicion that we were Jewish. And they arrested us again. They called the police and they arrested us. And the police were taking us from one town to another. As we got to a town, nobody was there because the German people were running away. They were afraid to be freed by the Russians. Because the Russians were raping them, and they were afraid, the women, to be freed by the Russians. And of course they were killing them as well, because when you passed the Odra, we saw the Germans floating. but till we got to a certain town which nobody was there, absolutely. And the German soldiers asked us, who are we? So we told them that we were Poles. We are in a camp in the border of Poland and Russia, or Poland and Russia, and the Russians were coming, and we were afraid of the Russians, and we ran. And the papers were left in the camp. And thank goodness he believed us and left us sitting in the middle of the town. So what we did, we went into one of the places and we took clothes and food and we start walking. We start walking till we got to a place called Lieben. I know it's much more to it, but I can see it. We were hidden by a German woman that was on the other side of the Odra, of the river, and the Germans was on this side, and the Russians were already on the other side because they used to cross the border, the river, and they used to rape the women, and we were really afraid. Me and Irma were really scared to be in a place where no women were there. So we started walking and got to a place called Lieben, where we went to a labor exchange and told them again the same story, that we are on the Polish-Russian border in a camp and we are afraid to be freed by the Russians. And we ran. And they sent us to work to a farm, as Poles. And there we were milking the cows, which we couldn't do it. We had to carry about 100 buckets twice a day for the pigs and for the cows, because the water was not working there. The canalization was broken, I don't know. And our backs were absolutely killing us. But better, we had food. We were not hungry anymore. And we were there 10 days and the Russians came. And we were very lucky because the colonel was Jewish, you see. But we still didn't say we're Jewish, because we had this terrible experience that the Russians came and went, came and went. You see, they didn't have the order to take over. So they used to rape the women and went back, you see, which we were very pleased because they were finishing them off. And actually the Russians said to us, whatever we want, we could take, they would take us, but we're still scared. We're still scared to take anything from the Germans. We're afraid, scared, stiff. They shouldn't find out we are Jews.
Do you know what the actual date was at this time? So it was obviously
it must be May.
The war.
May, yes, must be May. Yes. Yes, it was May. And the Germans gave us a cart and a horse. I had a case of clothes, and she had a case of clothes.
Where did the clothes come from?
The Germans gave us.
Really?
Yes, the Germans gave us, because what happened when the Russians came, they came all running to us. All the young women came running to us. We should hit them. They shouldn't rape them. We're helping them in the end, you see. So.
You did?
Oh, we had to. We didn't have no choice, did we? If the Russians will not finish us off, they will finish us off. It's no choice. So, as I said, they repaid us by giving us a cart and a horse, and we start driving back to Poland, towards Poland. By the time we got to Poland, we didn't have a thing. The Russians stripped us on the way. They took everything away from us. till we got to a place called Legnica, which is now Poland, and it was before Germany. In Legnica, my friend got very ill. It's bleeding all the gums. I was running like mad to get a doctor, and I was lucky. I was running, it was early morning, and 2 Russian officers were going, and I said, could you please help me? I spoke a bit of Russian, like I spoke a bit of German. When you are with them, you see, Russian is so similar to Polish. So, and as a matter of fact, they're both doctors. One also was a colonel, one was a captain. And I gave them the address, and the next day they came and brought medicine for her, and they were healing her. And they brought us food as well. They were quite good. We told them that we were Jewish, you see. You could see them already. I could see they were not Christian. You could see they were Jewish. And then she got better, but she couldn't travel. I went back to Poland to see if her husband is alive, if anybody of my family is alive. And she was living in Lodz, in Litzmannstadt. So the first stop, you see, we didn't have much money as well, and the traveling was terrible. We were driving in the trains, and it was just terrible, but somehow I got, and the Poles didn't like very much the Jews. They talking anecdotes about Jews, and my heart was bumping like a machine. You know, they were anti-Semitic.
How did you get any money at all?
The Russians helped us. And then you see, when we went there in Lignitz, we just went, the Germans ran away. We used to go to any places and we could get anything. We made ourselves the most beautiful flat. We had the most beautiful flat. We had parties every day.
Where?
With a piano in Legnica. After the war, you pinch yourself, you are alive. And the Russian soldiers used to come, and a lot of girls, Jewish girls and girls there.
We're talking about the summer now, 45?
Yes, must be summer, yes.
So how long were you in?
Legnica I stayed till I come to England. I tell you in a minute. And we were just living from one day to another. We didn't care. And a lot of Polish boys, Jewish there as well, who also were in camps. Some of them were in the Russian army, which I met a boy who was, yes, and I nearly involved myself, but I didn't. I tell you afterwards what happened. I went back to Poland and left Irma behind, and
This is tape 5 in the interview with Barbara Stimler, 2nd of December 1988, with Jennifer Wingate.
So I left Irma behind, as she was not well, and she was not able to come with me. My first stop was Lodz, where I was in the ghetto there, and she lived in Lodz with her husband. And I went to an office where whoever came there used to put their names down. It was like a bureau, Jewish bureau, and you could check if anybody is alive. Before I went waiting there, because they opened later than I anticipated, and I met a girl whom I was with her in Pirskau, in the working camp, and we were really, hugging each other. Oh, we are alive and all this. And there were 3 men standing there, which she was talking to them as well, and she introduced me to them. And she introduced me to one as, he introduced himself as Vice. And as Irma was telling me such a fantastic stories about her husband, and here I see a man without hair and thin, I did not realize it was her husband, but I asked him, have you got a brother called Ignaz Weiss? So she said, I am Ignaz Weiss. So, oh my God. And I said, the blood ran away from my body. And I said, look, I am with Irma. Irma is alive, your wife. And we both living together in Legnica. And we were cuddling each other and kissing and just crying. So he was not able to go straight away, but he sent a telegram to her. And I said to him, I'm not going home yet. I have to go to Aleksandrow to see if anybody is alive, and to Lubranitz if anybody from the family is alive, because when you don't see somebody being destroyed, you think maybe God was somewhere, like it saved me, maybe it saved somebody else. And nobody actually, I went to the office when they opened, and I didn't see anybody whom I knew who was alive.
Did you ask the officials there? Did they have lists of people?
Yes, the lists were hanging. They were hanging on the walls, and you could check it yourself.
These lists that the Poles had put
Jewish people put them together. Whoever came, they form like an office there, organization probably, I don't know.
Was it the Red Cross who had done it? Or
I don't think it was Red Cross. I just, my memory, it's faded a bit. And I don't remember who organized this, but I checked the list, and of course, nobody I knew was alive. So, Ignaz, Irma's husband, he said as soon as he finishes his business there, and he'll come to Legnica, which he did. And they looked after me like after like a sister, like a daughter. They were quite good to me, which I will tell you later. And then I went to Aleksandrow. I don't remember the trains, journeys. This I don't remember very well, how I got there. But
you don't remember if you were given help?
Oh, I didn't get, no, I didn't get any help whatsoever. I did not get any help.
How did you get money to
travel?
First,
when we were there, we used to get, as I told you, we could have anything, because the Legnica, all the Germans ran away from there. You could get, you could open your own business if you wanted to. You could, it was no problem. The Russians were helping us with the food as well. Afterwards, it was an organization, UNRWA, which they were sending food and clothes to Legnica. Yes,
United Nations Relief.
That's right, which they did. But I didn't need them anymore, because I got a job in Legnica. I was working as a secretary in the town hall, and Ignaz came, and he was doing some business, and then I was eating with them. Then I used to get a soup lunchtime in the office, and we used to get paid, but the pay was very, very little. What I mean little, we used to get, I think, 1,200 zloty a month, and a pair of shoes used to cost 8,000. But as I was with them, with the family, I was looked after quite well.
Who were you working for in the town hall?
In a Polish town hall, because Legnica became Poland.
Right.
Wrocław and Legnica, which was Germany before the war, they were now Poland, because Russia took a piece of Poland away, so the Germans, they took the piece of Germany and gave to Poland.
What sort of work were you doing?
Secretarial, typing, and I did know shorthand. I mean, I did not know typing either, because when the war broke out, I was just nothing yet. I didn't finish any schools, but I knew how to write. I was quite good in Polish, and slowly I learned myself. The mayor was a very kind man, a Polish man. I really don't know now if he was Jewish or Polish, because that time one did not reveal their real religion, because everybody was still afraid. I was afraid to say that I'm Jewish myself. I mean, I had to when I had my passport done and all this. But people were afraid yet, just afraid. You were so scared to say that you were Jewish. It was just going through bloodstreams, the fear. I just don't know. Anyway, when I left...
I just wanted to ask you, the work you were doing, secretarial work you were doing, was that still to do with organising people who were being displaced?
No. That had to do with the government, Polish government, which, dictating letters and all this.
Just the ordinary runner?
Yes, ordinary secretary, because I didn't have any qualifications. Anyway, which I was even glad to get this job. But anyway.
What about Ignaz Weiss? What did he do?
He was doing, going still to Germany and doing business. You see, that's what I mean. I remember he bought for her a dress, so he bought for me a dress. He bought for her a watch. He bought for me a watch. They were very, very kind to me.
You lived with them?
I lived with them till I come to England. Now, when I went back to then from Lodz, I went to Aleksandrow. There, when I got off the train, I met some people who I knew them by the faces, but I didn't remember the names. They recognized me, and they made a very, very big fuss with me. Really big. That was the jeweler who my father used to deal with him, and his mother-in-law, who they had a baker shop, and it was a small town, and everybody knew me. So I stayed there with our neighbors, who had a shop next to ours. They had a stationery shop. By us, the stationery was books and newspapers, coloring books, all the books for schools, and I stayed with them. They had two daughters. One daughter was a friend of mine, and a son who was older. And he didn't want me to go back, but and then the mayor of Aleksandrow called me, and he asked me to stay, that they give me a place to live, and I can do the work there, the secretary work there, but everything was too painful for me. Where we were living, I was just passing, I didn't even look. When I went to the neighbors, one neighbor had our paintings. We had beautiful oil paintings. We had beautiful carved wood, like a snake or a alligator. Beautiful things. My father loved it. And in another neighbor was our bedroom suite, and another neighbor was our dining room suite. It was my heart was breaking. I just couldn't. I stayed there. Then I went also to Służewo, to the little village which my mother came from, and my mother's sister lived there with her own 3 children and 2 children still, 2 sons, from the first wife of my uncles. And nobody was alive. I went to the Gentile people who were their neighbors, which they were very friendly with them. And they told me that my older cousin, who was older about 2 years from me, when they come to evacuate them, she didn't want to go, and they killed her on the spot. And so I thought to myself, what am I doing here? I just walked back, because it was only 5 kilometers. I walked back myself to Aleksandrow. I stayed still overnight, and I went make my own way back to, I still went to Włocławek as well, where I was going to school, and I had a lot of friends there. I had a friend which I was very close, Mirka Kolska, which she's still now living in Jerusalem, which I found out after the war. And it's a matter of fact that I also went in Włocławek to this office where people who come back sign their names to know that if somebody comes to look for them, that they were alive. And I met Mrs. Kolska, which was Mirka's mother. She was alive. They were, I think they were alive because they were living on Gentile papers. So, and Mrs. Kolska used to come from the same town as my father, so she knew my father, and my father knew her as well. So when I used to go to school in Włocławek, many weekends I used to stay overnight with Mirka. Though she was a class higher than I, or 2 classes higher, but we got quite friendly. Then nobody also was there alive whom I knew, or they were alive and they didn't still come to Włocławek to sign their names. But Mrs. Kolska told me that Mirka is alive, and her son is alive, and they're living in Warsaw. And she gave me the address of theirs, so, which was very helpful, because when I went to Warsaw afterwards to see the Foreign Office, to the Foreign Office for coming to England, it was very useful to me. And then after all this, I went back to Legnica. To Legnica, there I was looking for a job, and Irma was getting better, and I went to this town hall, and I got easily this job. I was interviewed by the mayor, and I got the job immediately. Working there helped me tremendously. I was meeting the Russians, the pułkowniks and big people, because Rokossowski's army was stationed there. And I also I met 2 reporters. One was from Sweden, and one was from England. My English was not so good, but I spoke German. And I asked for an interview with the English reporter. Thank goodness he spoke German. He didn't speak Polish. And I told him about my family in England, that my father's family was in England, my father's parents, my sister, and 2 brothers. Actually, I did not know that the second brother was here. The older brother came here, I think, before the First World War, because my grandparents and my aunt with her husband came after the war. How I know? Because when my father came from Russia to Poland, they were making themselves ready to go to England. Actually, my grandparents did not meet my mother, but my aunt, who came later to England, She met my mother. And can you stop for a second? When I had the interview with the English journal reporter, I remembered, of course I knew the surnames of my family, but I did not remember which one was which. Was it Woosden NW10 or W11 belonging to my aunt or to my uncle? But he was very kind and he took all the details, and apparently he put it in the newspaper here. Which newspaper, I don't know. They told me, but I don't remember. And people were phoning to my aunt, but in meantime I also met an American there, and he took a letter from me, because the post did not work yet properly there. So he took a letter from me. We did not know if the post will go abroad. In Poland was working like when you send a letter in a Polish town, they got it, but not abroad. We did not know. So he sent a letter also, and my aunt received a letter. And I also told her that I met this young man who was in the Russian army, but his father was alive. His mother died during the war, but his father was alive. They were living, they ran to Russia. And this young man, which I was going with him, he joined the Russian army. And in meantime, when his mother died, the father got married again. She also had a son because she lost her husband, the wife. And they were
Jewish people.
Oh yes, they were Jewish. Oh yes, yes. I couldn't do that. My father would turn in his grave. I just couldn't. And I told you, to save my life, I wouldn't go to a Gentile. Anyway, so they were quite comfortable. The father was doing big business. And they opened a shop. They had a shop in Legnica, a grocery shop and everything in it. And the food was so scarce, so it was really, they're making a lot of money. And they had already cars, which Zygmunt, the young man I used to go out with, he had his own car. And Ignaz Weiss also opened a shop with materials. So I finished my job in the office, and we used to work in the office till 4 o'clock. So after 4, I used to go to the shop, and if Irma wanted to go somewhere, I was in the shop. Because the closing time, that time I think was 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, I don't remember, but you stayed in a shop quite long. And Zygmunt was very, very kind. He used to bring me the first strawberries there and chocolates, and he really made a very big fuss. He was very much in love with me. Then I started getting letters from England. So the people I was staying with, Irma and Ignaz, they said to me, look, you don't even know what life is about. It's just soon after the war, is your first boyfriend. Don't you think you should better go to England, finish your studies? You've got quite comfortable family, they will look after you. I think this is the right choice to do. And I listened to them. Of course, Zygmunt, till the last minute, did not think that I will go. So I start making arrangements to go and see the... my aunt started sending papers, and they had to also show how much they earn, how much, if they have room for me to stay, and they were very comfortable people, and everything was in order. So I had to go and see in Katowice. Katowice was the consulate, and they were trying to help me as much as they could, but the money was running out. I had to stay for a couple of nights there. I had to go to a hotel. And I started selling my clothes, knowing that I'm going to England. I won't need these clothes. And even one material what I had from Zygmunt, I also sold it, which his father really gave me as a present, because I needed the money. I had to be twice in the Foreign Office in Warsaw, which I went to see my friend Mirka. I came to Warsaw very, very early in the morning, and I started walking there, and it looked terrible. The whole town was in one shambles. Very little buildings left. So I rang the bell, and I went there, and maid opened the door. I did not know that they were not as Jews. And I said to the maid that I was going to the Hebrew school Moriah Inn with Mirka, and she took me in, and they gave me a room to sleep, because I was very, very tired. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning. And then the next thing I know, they tell me to get out. I said, Mirka was not there. Sorry, Mirka was not there. Mirka was, I think she was already in Israel. Either she was not in Warsaw or she was already in Israel. I don't remember that. But the sister-in-law, you see, she had a brother who also lived there in this flat. And actually they gave me Mirka's room, I remember now. And the next thing I know that it was not her sister-in-law or her brother, but the woman who lives next door came to me, what I'm spreading to everybody that I'm Jewish and I'm putting them in a jeopardy. They didn't even give me a chance to explain. So I packed my little parcel and I went. And I had to find myself somewhere room to sleep. It was very expensive, so I was sleeping in a room where there were about 2-3 other people, scared they shouldn't take my few pennies away what I've got, but everything was okay. And I saw I went to the Foreign Office there, and the papers were arranged to come to England. In the meantime, in Liegnitz, the life was quite hectic. They are starting opening nightclubs, and we are enjoying our life to full. Dancing till about 3 o'clock in the morning, and by 8 o'clock in the office. Anyway, working. Yes, but we really enjoyed ourselves. And when the time came to go to England, I did tell Zygmunt 2 weeks before that I've got my papers and I'm going. So his father called me and he says, what's going to happen to Zygmunt? I said, look, I'm going to see my family. It does mean that I'm going to stay there. But I want to see them if I have the opportunity. And in my heart, I felt towards him like a brother more. But I didn't even know what the love or whatever is the meaning. You know, I never went with anybody.
You were still very
young, and I didn't know what life is about, as Ignaz was explaining to me. Anyway, so he didn't talk to me. He stopped talking to me. But when the time came when I had to go to the station, he came, he took my luggage and took me to the station. I had to go to Gdynia because I was coming by ship. And we didn't say one word to each other. Just when goodbye, he kissed me on my forehead, and that's it. That's how we left. When I got to Gdynia, of course I had my time when the ship's supposed to be going to England, to London. So, in the meantime, I booked myself into a hotel, a little small hotel. As I said, I sold my clothes, and they tried to help me as much as they could. And in the meantime, the boat, the ship Baltic, it was Baltic. Baltic, you call it in Polish, B-A, not B-O, B-A-L.
B-A, Baltic, yeah.
Yes. Something was wrong with it, and they had to repair it. And I was in terrible trouble, because you have to live, and here we cannot go away, and they wouldn't let us on the ship. But
no money.
And I'm running out of money. I met a girl when I was going on to see the ship, how it looks. It was only a little ship, only 20 passengers on it, going to England. So when I was going, one day I went to visit the ship, how it looks like. I met a girl, a young girl. Her name was Feigele, we called her. She called herself Feigele, but when she came to England, it was Fay. And we took to each other. She was staying in a hostel, and she was also afraid. She had more money than I did, and they should not pinch or take away from her, because you get all sorts of people in hostel. And I was not allowed to take anybody into my room. And one night when I was there by myself, the porter got himself drunk and started knocking to my door. And I got terribly frightened. I didn't let him in, and I thought, oh, if I have Faye here, I'll be better off. Anyway, one day I smuggled her in, and we were staying. It only was one bed, but we slept. And also once again he was knocking in the door. I was scared stiff. I put her under the bed in case he breaks the door in. But anyway, we were quite successful. It was, it was all right. And then we went one day to have tea or supper or something. We had a meal in a restaurant, and I met a man whose daughter was already in England, a middle-aged man. And he was only too eager to give me money, to lend me money. I should give the daughter back the money in England, you see. So he lended to me a few thousand zlotys, which came out £3.5 in English money. That time, you see, before we're talking over 40 years ago, so it was a little bit, but it helped me. So I don't remember how much it was, 3,000 or whatever, how 30,000. I think it was a lot of money, And that kept me going with this money, because after 10 days the ship was ready to sail.
Can you tell me when was this? What year? Was this 1946?
Yes, 1946. I arrived in England the 5th of August. And we traveled about 5-6 days, I suppose. It was just dreadful. I was so ill. I was so ill because it was a little ship. And
an English ship?
No, Baltic, Polish.
Oh.
Polish ship. And here we made ourselves ready. What are we going to eat? Because we're starving still after the war. We were so hungry. I don't think we had any bottoms in our stomachs. It was just tragic. I cannot tell you how hungry we were. And we planned how we're going to eat, me and Faye. Oh my goodness me, and here I am so ill. I was the first one to be sick, and I never was sick. And they used to chuck me out from one cabin to another because they didn't want to be sick. I was so ill. But what I managed to converse with some people and asking where we're going and which addresses, and I was telling him what address, and my aunt that time was living in Woolston, which was a very good address of Dobry Avenue, and quite comfortable and all this, while Faye was going to the East End. Anyway, after 5 days, I think, we arrived in London, into the docks, and the families were coming to collect us. Now, Faye's uncle and auntie did not have a car. They didn't have a car. And my uncle came with a car, Oshbronsi, and so he offered the aunt and Faye and the luggage to take on his car, but there was not enough room for the uncle and the cousin who came for her. And when we got to Faye's uncle's place, they had also a shop. I don't remember what shop, but that was the East End of London in Cable Street. Poor Faye, she got white like a sheet. It was really dreadful. So my aunt looked at me, says, "Don't worry." She says to me in Polish, "Don't worry. I live a little bit different." Because I felt terrible myself for her. Because they were writing to her letters, "Oh, you become a princess here," and all this. And poor Faye was really disappointed. And when I stayed with my aunt and uncle. I'm not going to mention the names because I had a terrible time with them. Yes. Though the house was beautiful, and in front gardens with roses and the back gardens with roses, but my heart was bleeding. My cousins were very kind, I must say. I suppose it took time a little bit to get used to have a strange person in their household, in their home. And
did you have cousins your age?
Yes, one was 2 years older, one was my age, one much older, she was married, and one cousin was only 16. And a cousin Joe was about that time 19, I would say, 18, 19. No, he was younger than myself. I was 19 when I come to England. Percy was 16 and Joe was, I think, 17. And then two cousins, one was a year older and one a year younger. That's right. Or my age. Don't remember now. Anyway, when I was there, I came there. They were very kind, very nice. They were introducing me to all their friends, my auntie and uncle, that the poor girl from Poland came. I think they thought that as civilization was going forward in England, in Poland stood still. Because my auntie would ask me, "Oh, did you have any cinemas?" Or something like that. If I said that I saw this in this film, so she says, "What, did you have any cinemas?" Because of course when she left, soon after the First World War, it was no cinemas anywhere. Anyway, and I think that they thought they brought a girl who, from a camp, she can't speak and she can't count and she can't read. And we just amazed because it was this big 6-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms and 3 toilets and no maid, you see. But what I could see that one of my cousins, which I was very fond of, she was the kindest one to me. She was doing like the housework and I was supposed to be helping her. But she was doing mostly the cooking and I was doing the housework. And my uncle was giving me 10 shillings a week. I needed like heels for my shoes. You remember we used to wear you don't remember because you were probably not born yet, but we were wearing platform heels with cork. And I took with me from Poland 2 pairs. I was already walking on the cork. I didn't have money to repair it. Then I had to find myself a school to learn English. So I was not allowed to go in the morning, but I was going in the afternoons because I had to help the housework. So the 10 shillings was just enough for the fares. So I remember when I came to England, my auntie took me to Bronsbury House, where all the children or people come from different countries. It was like a Jewish organization there or something. I don't remember what it was. It's everything to me like a dream. I had to register myself there, but I remember where we got off with the bus in Bronsbury. I don't know, a sweet shop was there, and it penetrated. I loved chocolate, so it penetrated in my mind, that sweet shop. So I went by myself one day there, and I said I would like to learn English. Could they put me onto a school? So they put me into Charing Cross Polytechnic, where I used to go there and have my lessons. Then one day, before I went to school, as soon as I come to England, I had to go to the Foreign Office. So my cousin Joe took me there. And I all dressed myself lovely, the sun was shining. They never told me, take with you a coat or an umbrella or something. And when we left the Foreign Office, which I was very, very, how shall I say, surprised, because when they took my details, they never asked my religion, which I was not used to it, because in Poland, everywhere you go, you had to tell your religion. So I said to my cousin, it's a fantastic country, you don't have to tell your religion, it doesn't stay in any of your papers who you are really. And so that really made me feel better inside me, that I was not afraid who I was. And as we come out from this Foreign Office, it started to rain. He was kind to me, he bought me an ice cream. Anyway, we got eventually home. And then, as I said, I was going to school in the afternoons, and I met girls from Poland, which I got very, very friendly. One of them is Rena Zabielak. Yes, her name was Litvak, but then she got married. Rena Litvak. And Hela Singer. And we got ourselves quite friendly. Rena was in this fantastic situation because her father used to do business with Germany, and so he used to go to Germany, and I don't know if he used to come to England, but he had money in the bank here. So she was in this fantastic situation that she had a home, because she got married soon after she came to England to her uncle, who lost his wife and a child. He was really the brother-in-law of her mother, of her mother's. Oh no! She would marry otherwise. And they had absolutely an open house. So I used to go any minute I had a spare time. I used to go there, and they shared the food because everything was on ration. But Arnold was quite capable man, and always food was there. So it was fantastic. While by my aunt, I didn't have this luxury. I didn't know, I didn't know which one is butter or which one is margarine. Then when they put it on the table, so I took a bit of butter and put on the bread, so my cousin would say, you know, Barbara, butter is on ration, we eat mostly margarine. Something like these little things. So my aunt was closing the larder when she was going out.
She locked it?
She locked it, yes. And little things like that, you see, which was not very pleasant.
It wasn't a happy house?
No, not for me, anyway. And
was your friend Rena, was she from the camps? Had she been?
No, she was also on the Gentile papers. She was hiding herself. Anyway, because her mother was alive, she came with a mother here, you see, and as I said, that had money put it here, which was fantastic for them. Anyway, then this Faye, started to work in a factory, sewing. So I said, Faye, I'm in terrible trouble. I have to earn money, and I don't know how. And she said to me, look, I can find you a job if you want in a factory. I said, okay. So she met in the factory some people, and one recommends the other one. She gave me an address, and the man she knew was a presser in a factory. So I came to this factory in the East End. It was Philpott Street, I remember. And I asked for this man. Oh, he says, yes, I know. Faye was telling me about, and he introduced me to the boss. And he says, I said, look, I can hold a needle, and I'll have to learn. You pay me what I'm worth, and that's all. But I have to earn some money. And and he engaged me. And then I was another week by my aunt. So my cousin, one of my cousins, my uncle had properties. During the war, he was sitting in London and buying properties, streets out. And where did he have the money? He had a big garage in Acton, where it was requisitioned by the government because they needed to make a factory there for arms, whatever, I don't know. And they paid him a lot of money, I think £20,000, which was a lot of money before the war. So he had the money, and he was just sitting in London and buying out streets because people were running away, and they didn't know if they have any value or anything. If they come back, it will be standing, which some of them was not standing, but he had a lot of compensation after the war. So before I went to work, to do my job, and before I spoke to my aunt and anything, my cousin took me once when she was collecting rent in Cable Street. And that was really before we start working, before Faye started working as well. And she says, look, I'm going to collect some money in Cable Street. If you want to see your friend Faye, you can go and see her. I'll go with you. I said, okay. Because I didn't want to travel such a long way by myself. I didn't speak very well yet. So I went with her, and we were collecting rent in this Cable Street as well. And we went to one house, which looked really dreadful. And I tell you this story afterwards about this house. But anyway, then we went to see my friend Faye, and she collected wherever she needed to collect, and we went back home. When I got married, shall I tell you now, or first finish the story and then I tell you about it? Yes, okay, I finish the story first here. Then I start mentioning gently that I found myself a job, and that I need money for clothes and all this, and they didn't say anything. Okay, I found myself a job, and I was not allowed to work yet in England because they took me and guaranteed that I have room and food and everything there. So I had to get up very early in the morning because I had to be 8 o'clock in the factory. Before I went, I used to make tea for everybody and gave them tea upstairs and all this, and I used to go to work. From Willesden, I had to take a bus to Ledborough Grove, and from Ledborough Grove, I took the train to Aldgate East. And then I walked to Philpott Street. That's where the factory was. And always two policemen were standing there, and I was always thinking they're waiting for me. Oh. So the girls in the factory used to laugh from me, but they were very, very kind. They were so helpful. They brought me food, and they were so kind, I cannot tell you. And they taught me how to hold the needle and how to sew. I started with £1, 10 shillings a week. 10 shillings was my journey, and I had £1 for myself. And being in the factory, as I told you, I sewed my clothes though my uncle, who was living above my grandmother had her own house, and there were 4 floors.
This is a different uncle you're talking about.
Yes, that is a different uncle.
Who lived
my father's brother lived all together with my grandmother.
Where?
In Kensington, Blenheim Crescent. My grandmother was living on the 1st floor, and my uncle was living on the 2nd floor. My uncle also originated from Poland, but he was living in France. When the war broke out, before the war broke out, his wife and her son was still in Poland. He went to Paris. From Paris he came to England, and the war broke out. So the wife and the child was in Poland, and he was in England. And of course he lost his wife and his son. He was very kind, but he didn't have anything because he came just from France, you see. And he tried to help me. He got me a coat, a lovely, beautiful coat. And then my cousin, one of my cousins, was getting married in January, and he bought me a lovely black coat, which I wanted for the wedding. And my aunt gave me some material, and I tried to make myself a dress. That was all before I started going to work myself.
Which wedding are you talking about?
My cousin's wedding.
Oh.
That was in January. And after the wedding, I start the work. When I started the work, of course, I was putting this coat on because I didn't have no coat. So my aunt said, "What, you wearing this coat for every day?" So I brought with me a little, like a jacket with a skirt, and the frost was so big, 47. I started working, the winter 47. So that was this terrible winter, and this man I was working for, he felt really sorry for me. So he says, "Look, we can make you a coat here, and you can pay out how much you want every week." So I thanked him very much, and they gave me a coat there, a winter coat, and I was giving him 10 shillings a week. So he only took one first week, and then he didn't take it from me, but he didn't want to make me. He said, "Whenever you have more money, so you give me," you see. Oh, he was very kind. He also looked what food I have and all this. He used to bring me some food.
They were all Jewish people?
Yes, yes. Not all. There were 2 ladies working there with me together. They were not English. One was an elderly lady, and she was an invalid. Her name was Beatty. And the other name, I forgot, but they were both very, very kind to me. And they all were very kind to me, so...
Were some of them like you?
No.
From
No,
Europe?
none of them. No. One lady was a Polish lady. She was married to a Pole, but she came here to this country when she was a baby, a child. So, but they were all very kind. And this lady who was married to this Polish fellow, they used to invite me also very often after work to have supper with them. They were really feeling sorry for me. I don't want to say any more, but I had a terrible experience with my aunt and uncle. Whichever something was missing, she used to ask me, like accusing me, and by the time she found it, I was the one who was accused. You know what I mean? It was a terrible feeling. My cousin, this one of my cousins who was helping at home, she was very kind to me, and she used to give me little gifts and all this. And she loved opera, and I loved opera, so a couple of times she booked the tickets and used to go to Covent Garden, right up on top. And I paid her back for the ticket. And once on a Thursday we went, and we came home, and we were so happy because it was a lovely, I think it was Il Trovatore or Tosca, because I saw both of them there. And so my uncle was sitting with his pals playing cards, and he calls me and he's, "Tomorrow you're not going to work because you have to help Auntie with the Shabbos." And you know, Fridays they were delivering the work, and it was the wages week, which I didn't have no money. And he didn't say to me, but here you've got 10 shillings or something like that. And I was crying all night. So I got up first thing in the morning to try helping her with the cleaning and all this. And my eyes were swollen like that. So my aunt said, it is not such a tragedy that you don't have to go one day to work. I said, but they are waiting for me. You know, it's a delivery day on a Friday, and the work has to be finished, because I was already better. I was getting over at that time £3 a week. Oh yes, I never asked him for any raise. Whenever he used to give me another 10 shillings a week, till it already was £3 or something, £2.50, I don't remember. Anyway, so she said, you didn't have to cry. It's not a tragedy. So I explained to her. Anyway, I said, can I go out for 10 minutes? So I went out and I phoned to the factory crying that I couldn't come to work because my uncle told me to help Auntie with the Shabbos. He said, don't worry. Anyway. And that Friday I helped her, and after I helped her and finished, was after lunch, I put my coat on and I went to my buba, to my grandmother. Because before I went to work, I forgot to tell you that I used to go to my grandmother very often, and I used to clean for her, I used to help her. She was a lady already nearly 90. Before I came to England, my grandfather, when he heard that he lost 3 sons in the war, he got a heart attack, and he was 81 and he died. But he left me £100 because he knew already that I was alive, you see, but he did live to the day to see me, and I didn't meet him either. So
the £100 was in England for you?
Yes. So I ran to my buba to help her clean and cook something for Shabbos, or Auntie was also give me to take something. And as I was crossing the road to run to the bus, my leg twisted, and I sat on the pavement and sat and cried. So a lorry stopped. This time he wouldn't do that, and I explained to him where I live, and he took me there back. And I was laid down for about a week with this leg, couldn't walk. Anyway, but they understood at work. Everything was okay, and I went back to work. But I phoned to my uncle, the one who was living with my buba. His name was Benjamin. And I said, Uncle, I can't stand it anymore there. They don't let me go to work. They want me to clean the house, and I'm going to take a room somewhere. So he says, look, while you are here in England, you're not going to take a room. So you come and stay with us. Buba's got 2 rooms, so you can stay with Buba. I said, okay. On a Monday, I was babysitting for my older cousin, who had a little boy, and I used to babysit quite often by her when I used to come from work, go to her straight, and then she could go with her husband to the cinema or theater, whatever, and it gave me pleasure. I used to bath Ellen and put him to sleep, and of course I had supper ready there when I used to go to my cousins. And that was the oldest daughter of my aunts, also living in Willesden, and her husband had a hairdressing salon. So Uncle said, you come and stay here. That time I was going out with a Polish fellow, already about 2 months. But not 2 months. I went with him for about a fortnight. And I said to him, Salek, I am leaving Auntie, and I'm going to move to my grandmother. So he came and he took the cases for me, and they were out somehow. Everybody was out that time, and I just went. That was on a Tuesday. I was babysitting on Monday, and on Tuesday I went. And so they did not know where I was, you see. So they phoned to my uncle then and didn't ask where is Barbara, but where is this Moit? Where is this girl? You know, but Moit is it's not a word in English.
Yiddish, is it?
Yes. Anyway, so my uncle said that she's here and she's staying with us.
What does Moit mean?
Like a not a nice word, girl or a woman. I don't know. Anyway, didn't matter. So I and that's it. I had to go again there because I left, let's say, the material what my auntie gave me for this evening dress, what I made myself there. I bought a pattern, I made myself. I left it because I didn't need it. I didn't want anything from them, actually. I left everything. Whatever they gave me, I didn't. So my aunt was a bit annoyed. I said, but you look, I don't need this evening gown. You might need for one of the girls, they can wear it. You go to these functions, because on that Sunday before I left, they had a wedding to go to, and they used to take me with, you see, to show off. They brought a girl from Poland, but I said, no, I'm not going. I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going. I'm not feeling up to, after this, what the performance, what happened. Anyway, so I was staying with my grandmother, but she was an elderly lady. She had she had a bedroom where there were 2 beds, and she had also a living room, which was a part of a kitchen. And in the living room she had a put-you-up. And I wanted to stay in the put-you-up, but she wanted me to stay with her in the bedroom. I said, Grandma, it's no good elderly person with a young person. It's better if you sleep on your own and I sleep on my own. I had a little bit to do with her. And my older uncle, Solomon, was living around the corner in Ledbrook Grove. And